Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the workbench with the Miller's Falls number 8, like a Stanley number 3. So there's a conundrum. What is a conundrum? If I take my Stanley number 3 blade set, that's chip breaker and iron, and I put it in this plane, it works beautifully. I take the new blade with the chip breaker and I put it in, and it doesn't work so nice. So, new, thicker iron, Stanley, thinner iron. So I'm looking at the profile. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's see if we can get in here. The profile of the chip breaker on the Stanley is a little more gentle. Profile on the chip breaker on the Miller's Falls is steeper. Okay? So, the conundrum is that when you advance the Miller's Falls, you can't get so close to the front of the mouth because the chip breaker will actually cause you trouble. So you back the chip breaker up, effectively eliminating the function of the chip breaker. So that brings me to the other conundrum and where this little stick comes into play. I made this little stick. It's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's just wide enough to do what I want it to do, but not too wide that I can't get it in the plane. So it simulates the blade. All right, I got my primary bevel on there and a point. So when you move your frog back, if you move it too far back, this part of the blade, right in here, will hit the back of the mouth. So if I make this should pass through like that, see? Just as if you were advancing the blade. Then holding it down, you look here, and there should be a fraction of space under it. So the blade is not touching the sole of the plane. The blade is resting on the frog. So I do that on both sides. Okay? And it's about the same. I can get my fingernail just barely in there. So I know that my blade is not hitting the back of the frog. So that's an interesting little bit of information, because if you slide it through, okay, if you advance this little stick, how can I get to the camera here? If you advance this little stick on the frog and you push it forward towards the mouth and you feel resistance just as it's leaving, and you maybe even feel a clunk, a little bump, that means it's hitting something. You can't have that. It doesn't work. Now, back onto the conundrum. I'm wondering what would happen if I took the new blade off of the Miller's Falls chip breaker and I took my Stanley chip breaker off of an original Stanley blade, okay, and I put this lower profile chip breaker onto the new thicker blade, all right, I haven't done this yet. We're doing this live here. And I advance the chip breaker up to where I normally like to have it. Now, mind you, the Stanley blade and the Stanley chip breaker were working perfectly in this plane. So I have this advanced a little more than I normally like to have it advanced. Okay? I don't know if you can see that. The blade's out a little bit further than I normally would like. So now, let's place this into the plane. Make sure it's resting on the lateral. That's a little bit loose. So that's telling me that the combination of the chip breaker and blade is a little thinner. And now we take a piece of wood, which I planed yesterday, and we retract the blade until I don't see anything showing. All right, give it a squiggle of wax. All right, we have no engagement. Now I'm going to advance it slightly, and we have engagement. Beautiful. Okay, so I believe part of the conundrum is the chip breaker. Working perfectly. Go figure. So, what are my options? I can't really grind anything off here. I might be able to put a little bit of a bevel on that front, which might help. And I might try that. So, for future reference, you can't overlook anything when you're trying to get your tools to work. The thickness of the blade is causing a challenge, and I'm going to address that in another video. But so was the chip breaker. It's all about just bad design. That's about it, everybody. It's working fine now. Like, subscribe, and share. Head out to your shop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.